Hello and welcome to the Business Standard Morning Show. I'm Binu Sandhu. Let's take a look at the stories for the day. Unified Payments Interface or UPI has made transferring money easy and instant for everyone with a connected device. The system is now clocking nearly 6 billion transactions every month. To provide more convenience to consumers, the Reserve Bank of India has allowed the linking of RuPay credit cards with UPI, which is expected to be complete in the next 2 months. But UPI credit transactions on credit card will also carry a merchandise fees. So the question is, will UPI and credit cards take off or will the merchant fees spoil the party? Let's find out.
Every day, more than 26 crore digital payment transactions are processed by India's payment systems, two-thirds of which are processed just by the Unified Payments Interface or UPI. With more than 26 crore unique users and 5 crore merchants on board the UPI platform, payments through this method have become ubiquitous. In the first quarter of 2022, 9.36 billion transactions amounting to 10.25 trillion rupees were processed through payment modes like debit and credit cards, PPIs like mobile wallets and prepaid cards, and UPI person to merchant or P2M. UPI P2M transactions emerged as the most preferred payment mode among consumers with a market share of 64% in volume and 50% in terms of value, according to a Worldline report. UPI transactions have been growing by leaps and bounds at the cost of other retail payments, especially card transactions. One of the key reasons for UPI's popularity is the Zero Merchant Discount Rate or MDR. It is a fee calculated as a percentage of the transaction that is paid by merchants to banks for processing payments. RuPay debit cards too attract no MDR, whereas the fee on other debit cards is 0.4% to 0.9%. However, there is no cap on MDR for credit cards, which ranges from 1.5% to 3% of the transaction value. RuPay credit cards typically have lower MDR than MasterCard or Visa credit cards. Merchants prefer UPI so they can avoid high MDR on credit cards as well as monthly rentals for point-of-sale terminals. UPI currently facilitates transactions by linking savings or current accounts through debit cards of users. The RBI last month allowed the linking of credit cards to UPI, with the facility being initially made available for cards issued on the homegrown RuPay network. Business Standard on Monday reported that NPCI and banks have come to a consensus on MDR for credit card transactions on RuPay UPI, which has been a sticking point. They agreed to an MDR of 2%. Of this, 1.5% will go to the issuing bank, with the rest being shared with RuPay and the acquiring entity. At smaller outlets with annual turnover of up to 20 lakh rupees, these transactions will be free with a ticket size of up to 5,000 rupees and no limits on the number of daily transactions. RuPay's operator NPCI will reportedly seek RBI's approval for the scheme. Will the MDR come in the way of merchant adoption for UPI transactions on RuPay credit cards?
Zero MDR is a huge catalyst for merchants to accept payments. Having said that, credit card has a certain structure to it, wherein the issuing bank has a certain credit risk, etc., that it covers through the MDR. But I don't think it will be as much of a barrier for merchants who are anyway accepting payments on POS machines today, because they are already sort of paying MDR for credit cards. It does help consumers because consumers are used to sort of the convenience of paying through QR code scan approach. And as consumers sort of take interest in this, I think merchants who are anyway paying MDR today on POS machines may not mind, just adding it to their QR codes as well. Merchants who are not in that credit card acceptance framework yet, they may not be so open to or turning on the credit card acceptance on UPI. You see, the merchants, they need to see the value for it. Okay, if they see that having turning it on, they're able to get more customers, etc. They'll probably start converting, but it's not going to happen overnight, right?
Allowing credit card for everyday payments will result in faster adoption by the consumer for sure. So as merchants, when they see the volumes coming in, right, I think the merchants will also start adopting. Yes, the MDR is a bit of a challenge over there. We feel that over the period of time, the merchants will realize the benefits of what a 2% MDR can generate in terms of further volumes, right? One will lead to proliferation of credit cards as well at the same time. So I think it's going to not hinder. It'll definitely improve the government's effort of further digitization and penetration. I think over the period of time, when more and more customers will come and demand for a credit card payment through the UPI, merchants will start acknowledging the importance of it and start adopting it. Even the non-POS merchants, right? If you think about it, they never really adopted POS machine just because of the process of the implementing a POS machine, getting those systems in place, right? Making sure it works regularly. QR works very naturally, right, for them. So it's easier for them to adopt QR than go through a POS machine. It doesn't mean that they do not want to accept credit cards. So with the QR code accepting credit card payments, you don't need any more POS machines.
While 5 crore merchants have been onboarded on the UPI platform, India has just over 60 lakh POS terminals in use. Merchants with POS machines can be easily signed on to credit card UPI payments. Expanding adoption to smaller merchants will require protecting them from MDR. They will also wait to see how consumers are accepting the new mechanism and the reception at larger merchants. In the first phase, lower penetration of RuPay credit cards may also come in the way of adoption. Of the more than 7.3 crore credit cards in circulation, RuPay cards are estimated at just around 1 million. Even so, credit card payments through UPI has the potential to reshape the credit card issuance and usage landscape in India.
सब अच्छी दिख रही हैं यार, कौन सी खरीदूं? ये तो वही बात हुई, 4000 शेयर्स लिस्टेड है, कौन सा लूं? वो तो सबसे आसान है। तुझे 5 पैसा नहीं पता?
अब तो सबको पता है। 5 पैसा पर है 4000 स्टॉक्स की रिसर्च, टेक्निकल टूल्स और इन्वेस्टमेंट आइडियाज। डाउनलोड 5 पैसा नाउ।
अब तो सबको पता है, investing made easy and rewarding with 5 paisa. Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.
While the merchant fee on UPI credit card transactions may attract resistance from certain merchants, the move will lead to greater use of such cards for small ticket transactions. Moving on, the World Health Organization has declared monkeypox as an international public health emergency. The outbreak has started spreading across the globe rapidly. The WHO alarm indicates a public health risk which requires a coordinated response. The last time the global health body sounded such an alarm was when the coronavirus had hit the world. Now, should India be worried about the monkeypox threat? Our next report explains.
Monkeypox is a viral zoonosis. It's a virus that is transmitted from animals to humans. The disease symptoms are similar to those seen in smallpox patients, although less severe. Monkeypox outbreaks are not new and infections have been reported for over 50 years now, mostly in the rural and rainforest areas of Central and West Africa. However, in the 2000s, countries outside Africa started reporting cases, but they too were in limited clusters. Since April this year, the disease has spread worldwide, particularly in several non-endemic countries. Experts are still unsure why there is a sudden outburst of cases in many countries. Even though the virus existed for years, it is interesting to note that the WHO currently knows too little about the new modes of transmission of the virus. Studies are also underway to understand sources of the infection.
We don't know very much about very many viruses, mostly because this was a virus that was in Africa, but because it caused very few infections outside Africa, it was generally ignored. It was not a rich world virus where you would expect viruses to be studied quite frequently. But it is a virus where, from what we know from pox viruses, we do know a fair bit and enough to be able to handle the virus. We don't understand why it's now spreading in humans so much, but there are some things that are clear pointers to why this is happening. People's behavior has changed. So you can have a lot of people traveling, you get a lot of people in close contact with each other in some settings, and then they travel to other places and then they cause infection in their communities. So the opportunities for the virus to spread now are much more than they were 50 years ago. So right now, many of the cases that have been described have been in men who have sex with men, but that's not the only group in whom it has been described. We've seen the infection in children, we see the infection in immunocompromised individuals, and it is these latter two groups that need to worry, because in them the disease can be severe.
Currently, the disease is spread to over 75 countries. More than 16,000 infections are reported. Experts suspect the current outbreak worldwide was fueled largely by sexual contact among men. The incidents were common among immunocompromised people and among the relatively younger population, including children. In India, 4 cases of monkeypox were reported till now, 3 of which are in Kerala and 1 in Delhi. The 4th infected patient had no foreign travel history, which caused an alarm among health officials. Dr. Suresh Kumar, MD of Lok Nayak Jayaprakash Narayan Hospital in Delhi, said the patient is currently being treated as per standard procedures and is recovering well. The union government has held a high-level meeting and the states have been advised to conduct strict surveillance. The Health Ministry has also advised airport and port health officers and regional directors from regional offices to ensure strict health screening of all international travelers at arrival. So should India be worried? All public health emergencies clearly don't turn out to be pandemics. In the last decade, over 6 diseases have been declared as public health emergencies, including swine flu, Ebola, Zika, but none of them overwhelmed the health systems. Even though human-to-human transmission of monkeypox is happening through respiratory droplets or close skin contact with lesions, the number of infected persons is limited, unlike the COVID outbreak. The monkeypox virus is also known for low case fatality rates. In Africa, the fatality rate is about 3%, and in the rest of the world, it is much less. Since it is closely related to smallpox, people who received a smallpox vaccine in the past may have some protection from monkeypox. Experts say it is not necessary to vaccinate the entire population. A Harvard publication noted that ring vaccination, or vaccinating only people around those who are infected, would suffice in containing the outbreak.
So right now, we need not to panic, but at the same time, we have to be more vigilant, more careful about the early detection of the cases, isolation of the cases, better surveillance. Surveillance is very important. The contact tracing, surveillance. So more focus on the prevention. As the disease is self-limiting, most of these patients recover very well.
Experts say even though there is no need to be worried about the monkeypox threat in India, health officials must be alert. While the disease outbreak is minuscule so far when compared to COVID, it could be restricted through prompt and effective public health measures.
क्या हाल?
मत पूछ यार,
फिर से स्टॉक्स में फंस गया।
तो स्टॉक्स के साथ बॉन्ड्स, इंश्योरेंस, गोल्ड में बैलेंस कर।
इसमें बहुत तामझाम है।
तुझे 5 पैसा नहीं पता?
अब तो सबको पता है। 5 पैसा है ऑल इन वन अकाउंट। डाउनलोड 5 पैसा नाउ।
अब तो सबको पता है Investing made easy and rewarding with 5 Paisa. Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.
Over to the markets now. Bajaj Auto's Q1 result was lukewarm. The company reported low double-digit growth in profit over last year. Its revenue expanded in single digit. However, the highlight of the commentary was easing semiconductor shortages and improved production levels. In our next report, we take a deep dive into the world of autos, interpret Bajaj Auto's Q1 performance and what analysts expect from Maruti Suzuki and Tata Motors when they announce their results for the June quarter today.
Bajaj Auto's June quarter financial results give a precursor to how the automobile industry may fare this earnings season. The two-wheeler maker's profit fell 20% quarter-on-quarter to 1,173 crore rupees but rose 11% over last year. Its revenue remained unchanged sequentially and climbed 8% year-on-year. EBITDA margin improved by 100 basis points over the previous year but contracted 90 bps quarter-on-quarter. A similar picture may be painted by Maruti Suzuki and Tata Motors when the two announce their Q1 results later today. Analysts say auto earnings should not be compared with the year-ago quarter as last year was marred by pandemic-induced lockdowns owing to the Delta wave of COVID-19. Rather, they suggest investors closely read management's commentaries on demand outlook. According to HDFC Securities, investors should watch out demand outlook, track comments on supply constraints, the timeline for benefit of softening input costs, and impact of possible US recession. Analysts expect upcoming quarters to be better for automakers.
Semiconductor shortages have started easing, and we expect the auto companies to start reporting better production numbers. Apart from that, what is working for the auto sector is a great monsoon, which will drive rural demand, and also lower commodity prices since steel and aluminium and plastic prices have started falling. We expect margin pressures for auto companies to come down significantly. So we expect better margins from auto companies.
Analysts recommend staying selective on buy-on-dip strategy.
The good news is that demand is back, as can be seen from the bookings, and normalcy has also returned to the chip industry and availability is not an issue anymore. Commodity prices also have cooled off over the last few weeks. So one definitely expects positive surprises from the auto sector, and we are positive on it from a medium to long term. Since many of the stocks have run up, it's definitely a sector where you can buy on corrections.
As regards today, domestic corporate earnings and the US Federal Reserve's monetary policy outcome will sway the markets.
अब क्या किया?
शेयर्स में ट्रेडिंग।
तुम्हें 5 पैसा नहीं पता?
ओए, अब तो सबको पता है। 5 पैसा पर मिलते हैं रिसर्च टूल्स, पोर्टफोलियो एनालिटिक्स और इन्वेस्टमेंट आइडियाज भी। डाउनलोड 5 पैसा नाउ।
अब तो सबको पता है, investing made easy and rewarding with 5 Paisa. Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.
The government is likely to introduce the Development of Enterprise and Service Hubs Bill, or the DESH Bill, in the upcoming monsoon session of Parliament. The legislation seeks to overhaul the existing ecosystem of special economic zones and will comply with the global trade rules of the World Trade Organization. Find out more in our next report.
The SEZ Rules 2006 came into effect on 10th February 2006 amid much fanfare. Till mid-June this year, 378 SEZs were notified, and of them, till March this year, 268 SEZs were operational. Rest were denotified. So why did such a large number of SEZs have to be denotified? Among the reasons listed by the government were poor market response, lack of demand for space, and change in the fiscal incentive regime. Exports from these SEZs have fallen to $102.3 billion in FY21 from $112.3 billion in FY20. They account for less than 20% of exports now. Set up to fulfill India's plan of becoming a manufacturing powerhouse, these special zones fell short of expectations as the competitive advantage waned and several direct tax benefits were withdrawn. A WTO panel had in 2019 said that incentives given to entities located in SEZs violated the agreement on subsidies. So now the government has decided to overhaul the SEZ rules. The government is likely to introduce the development of enterprise and service hubs or DESH Bill in the upcoming monsoon session of Parliament. Through this, the government is seeking to go beyond export-oriented manufacturing and focus on broad-based parameters such as boosting additional economic activity, generating employment, and integrating various industrial hubs. Unlike in the SEZ ecosystem, the government has proposed to create developmental hubs, whose focus is not limited to exports, but also to cater to the domestic markets. The customs duty would only be paid on the inputs used and not on the expensive final goods. The bill also seeks to integrate existing industrial estates, such as textiles and food parks, by converting them into developmental hubs. The DESH Bill classifies two types of developmental hubs: enterprise and services hubs. While the enterprise hubs will have land-based area requirements and be allowed for both manufacturing and services activities, services hubs will have built-up area requirements and be allowed for only services-related activities. These hubs, which will come up under the regional boards of states, could be created by center or states or jointly by both or by any goods and services provider. One of the key aspects of the new DESH Bill is also to promote the expansion of the gambit of service sector units. Currently, only specified services such as IT, ITES are allowed in special economic zones. The bill also proposes to offer tax benefits and other SOPs. According to reports, the draft bill proposes to freeze the corporation tax at concessional 15% for greenfield and brownfield units in the developmental hubs.
I'm backed by the nation's trusted bank, SBI, the banker to every Indian.
That's all we have for you today. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news and analysis. Stay tuned and thank you for watching.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.